Circuit has little immediate practical effect because Congress already has removed the insurance requirement as of this year. But the 2-1 ruling leaves the rest of the sprawling statute in limbo heading into a presidential and congressional election year. And the panel's one Democratic appointee dissented, writing the states challenging the law did not have the standing to do so, and that, if they did, she would find the mandate unconstitutional. Still, the decision carries significant political implications. It catapults to the forefront of the 2020 presidential and congressional campaigns questions about insurance coverage and consumer protections for people with pre-existing medical conditions. Issues that Democrats wielded in the last year's midterm elections to win a House majority.
You're right. So nothing like bringing health care, that's already a top 1, 2, 3 topic for voters, now saying, hey, the ACA's in limbo, and now it accentuates the problem. And who wins on that discussion? Well, last time it was the Dems. The Republicans, they have nothing, Crudy. They have repeal and replace, right? That's all they have. So, I mean, I think this is
they've got no replace, Tom. You know they've got no replace, man.
Great opportunity for a Medicare for all plan. It's got to be addressed. It's got to be addressed now. And who's going to do that? Well, those that embrace Medicare for all hopefully will step up, and it will be received more warmly, given that perhaps some people have risk to losing their health insurance now.
So there is some breaking news. I hope there's at least a few people watching, listening to us on the Facebook broadcast here, Dom. A little bit more from this article at the Washington Post. Wednesday's ruling resembles the legal position the Trump administration staked out in a case a year ago before the Justice Department hardened its stance to argue in March that the whole law is unconstitutional. The Fifth Circuit decision may or may not be the final word on the ACA, depending on whether its opinion is appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, and if so, whether the High Court takes the case. Well, Tom, you're normally presiding in the High Court here. What sayeth you?
I had issues with the law, Crudy, constitutionally, you know this, from day one. But either way, I'm down for a Medicare for all, and if this helps catapult that policy, then hopefully that's the good that can come out of it.
Can you imagine a Medicare for all proposal that doesn't, end up in the courts shortly thereafter, Dom? Someone's going to say, care for everyone is somehow unconstitutional to somebody that doesn't want care.
Well, we already have Medicare.
The contrarian side.
We already have Medicare, right? So I don't know.
Not for everybody.
So the fact that we
somehow
already
that'll
have
make
Medicare,
it unconstitutional.
The only limiting factor is that it is not for everybody. And if it's good for some people legally, why wouldn't it be good for all people? Since it's already passed, and we already have other forms of government-supplied health care. The VA, for example, all the federal employees, state employees, federal workers, lots of people, 130 million perhaps. Last I tried to count of how many people in this country are impacted or covered in some way, shape, or form by a government-backed health care system. So it's already there. But yes, absolutely, Republicans will try to come up with something to gum up the works. That's what they do.
Now, we can say whatever we want on this broadcast, right? We can say whatever we fucking want on Facebook, can we not?
Oh, look at yes, we can swear.
Oh, it feels a little naughty to say it that way. But haven't they already taken a bite at this apple? Didn't the Roberts Court, and you've fucking beat me over the head with this point many, many times in our many conversations about healthcare.
Yeah, fucker.
But didn't the Roberts Court already rule on this and somehow change the Obamacare and make this all kosher?
The tax penalty issue that the Obama administration came forward with is their legal argument to get around it's been a while. What was it? The
individual mandate.
The individual mandate, yes, but I'm sorry.
Whether or not it was a tax, Tom.
Well, of course it was a tax, and we wouldn't have had the court cases if the Obama
But that was
administration
the
would just
argument the
have
Obama
said a tax.
administration made, and we've had many semantical arguments about whether or not it was a tax. But ultimately, hasn't, can this go through double jeopardy? Didn't we already have this argument? And didn't the courts already rule? I mean, if they could have found a different reason and rationale to throw out Obamacare, shouldn't they have done so already?
By now.
Why
Well, they
must
could-
we wait for the makeup of the court to change and another lawsuit? And if Kavanaugh wants it gone, now it's going to be gone. Now I can't insure my kid any freaking more. And by the way, people can call us. That's my understanding, Dom. So let's give them the phone number, 844-967-2789, 844-967-2789. A direct-to-Facebook exclusive for like 20-ish listeners and viewers out there in Radio Land. We're not going long.
We're also on
but-
YouTube and Twitter.
Oh, YouTube and Twitter. Yes. Let's not forget our YouTube and Twitter fans. Thank you, Brian. Fucker.
And let's not forget the impeachment of Donald J. Trump's going on in the background.
Oh,
Dom.
yes. No, but Crudy, I got to tell you, that is not the news of the day. No, the news of the day is the fact I got an email from Senator Ron Johnson, Wisconsin's own, got an email from one of his staff saying that the impeachment is not the news of the day. No, his GAC, the Homeland Security Government Affairs Committee in the Senate, chaired by Senator Johnson, had a hearing today, and they called in the IG Horowitz and went over the whole Horowitz report again. That,
Well,
Crudy,
Dominic,
is
you
the
know-
news of the day.
Frickin' Ron will be issuing a press release on this ACA, some sort of anti-Obamacare sentiment. See, I told you he's born in Kenya, something of that sort. There will be an attack, I suspect, coming from Ron Johnson's office, because you know what he's doing. They're all just sitting around watching the impeachment like we are, and they're now currently writing a rapidly constructed anti-Obamacare scribe or presser, if you will, Dom.
So what do you think comes out of this, man? I mean, obviously, healthcare continues to be a major factor in this election. This loss now brings it again to the news cycle. Do you think any good comes of it?
Well, depends on how you describe good. Now, if Republicans, and we've got the
Good,
impeachment on.
good is
Adam
good,
Schiff's-
man. When something's good, it's good. It's good.
Okay, here's what I would say. Republicans view through their prism of partisan politics the impeachment of Donald Trump as a good electoral issue. They think it's good. Now, I don't think so, Dom. You and I would take
I don't
some
buy that.
umbrage with that assessment.
They may say it. I don't believe them. I can't. Of course. Come on, man. Everything's
Yeah, but
good.
they're firing up the base and they're getting lots of campaign donations. Those two things are good as far as the Trump campaign, because that's also a grift as far as I can tell. But here's my point, Dom.
What, man?
This issue, anytime healthcare is front and center and people's healthcare can be taken away and leveraged against them, and we're back to pre-existing conditions being uninsurable, yeah, I think that's good for the Democratic Party, because that's where our voters are. And quite frankly, I think those that want to take the framework of Obamacare and build on it, I think their
right.
their medical plans suddenly have a big gaping hole in them, as our countries might if the U.S. Supreme Court were to uphold this ruling. 844-967-2789, direct to Facebook special for maybe just moments longer. Who can tell?
You never know what's going to happen. A lot of people are talking about it. We are the Devil's Advocates on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitter. Once again, 844-967-2789. Crudy, did you know that Donald Trump was the duly elected president of the United States? Because if you didn't know, after today's hearings on the impeachment, the Republicans will remind you over and over.
You know what I
and
heard?
Over.
Fuck that guy. Over and over and over and over and over again today, Dom.
What?
Charade.
Charade.
The word charade.
It's a charade.
This is a charade. And I prefer charade. So it kind of bugged me. We play charades, but it is a charade. I prefer the European pronunciation.
And by the way, whenever somebody's doing anything nefarious or wrong, they always do it breathlessly. They were breathless as they did this. They were breathless as they just did this. Oh, as they're breathless, literally saying how.
Oh, Lisa.
Oh, no. So anyway, let's. Do we have any? Who's speaking right now? Maxine Waters. Can we bring up some Maxine Waters? Crudy, you got
I'll
the
push
dial.
it up a little bit.
Who's doing it? Brian?
Crudy is.
Crudy is. All right, Crudy's doing it.
An irrefutable case and an indisputable set of facts.
A little more, man, please.
They've been disputing these facts all day long.
Congress. Any other individual
Can you hear it?
who would
Can you
have
hear me
been
now?
caught
Turn it up a little more if you
conducting
can.
themselves in the way this president has, would have been prosecuted to the full extent of the law. It is shameful that any members of this House are willing to disregard the Constitution, turn a blind eye to hard facts, and ignore a confession from the president himself. History will remember those who were willing to speak truth to power. Yes, I called for Trump's impeachment early. This is our country. Our foremothers and our forefathers shed their blood to build and defend this democracy. I refuse to have it undermined. I wholeheartedly support this resolution. I'm proud that in the final analysis, justice will have been served in America and Donald Trump will have been
Ladies,
impeached.
time's expired. Gentlemen,
Will have been impeached.
Hell
Donald Trump
yes.
kissed my ass. That's how she should have.
Yes! F- you too!
Impeach the motherfucker.
Gentleman from Georgia.
Reclaiming my time that the gentlelady did not have, I yield 35 seconds to the gentleman from Louisiana, Mr.
Gentleman's
Abraham.
recognized for 35 seconds.
Come on, man. We're
Speaker, what is
doing this in
shameful
35-second
is that
increments.
Speaker Pelosi has allowed this Democratic witch hunt to move
The
forward.
Democratic witch
She's
hunt.
the one that has abused her power.
She's the witch.
She's abusing the power.
House. Reagan
I'm out of order. You're out of order. The
This whole court's out of order.
It's just that they know so much that isn't so.
All right, hang on. You're going to do it? Let's switch it up. Crudy, turn yours down. We have a better feed in here through all the technology. Let Brian take control of it, if you would, please.
California.
Screw you guys.
And we'll just give him
Recognize
the
the
heads
gentlelady
up.
from Nevada, Ms. Titus, for a unanimous consent request.
Gentlelady's recognized.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to enter my statement into the record supporting the impeachment of Donald Trump.
Woohoo!
Order.
Thank you.
And I now recognize the gentleman from Connecticut, Mr. Himes, for 2 minutes.
Gentleman's recognized for 2 minutes.
You know,
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today in anger and hope.
What's that?
I
Crudy?
appreciated Gwen Moore. Gwen Moore was preaching it earlier today.
Do we have
I heard
Gwen Moore? Yes, we do.
Well, are
But
we going to dump Gwen Moore while we're listening to the impeachment,
I
while we're
think-
talking over the impeachment of Donald J. Trump? Seems like a lot of
on
elements.
a Facebook live feed, we can do, with Fancy Brian's help and supreme talent, we can do damn near anything. We can rewind. We can fast forward. We have it.
We can swear.
We can swear. We do have my Congresswoman, Gwen Moore. I have not heard this yet, so folks, please stick around. Here is the Congresswoman on the floor on the Trump impeachment vote today.
Madam Speaker, the facts are uncontestable. The evidence is overwhelming. The president grossly misused the office of president and obstructed Congress, and justice requires this impeachment. I feel compelled to respond to the false narrative that Democrats are using this process to overturn an election. You know, I agree. Elections are the appropriate venue for public policy disputes. However, we're not talking about a public policy dispute. We're talking about a president who subverted national security by soliciting foreign interference in our elections. The exact thing our founding fathers feared, and the exact circumstance for which they drafted the impeachment clause. Our democracy, our Constitution deserves standing up for, not Donald John Trump. And I will leave my colleagues with this last thought as they decide how to cast this historic vote. For what shall it profit a man to gain the whole world only to lose his own soul? I yield back.
Congresswoman Gwen Moore, lighten it up. Thank you so much for representing me today on the House floor on the Trump impeachment vote. Do we have any poke can? Did you get anything else? No poke can?
Mark did okay. I like Mark.
You got to now, Mark is your Congressman Crudy. You got to hear him today. What was your thought?
I did. I heard Mark live. I heard Gwen Moore live. I heard Glenn Grothman live.
Oh,
Grothman.
Oh, you poor
I did
bastard.
some television video, highest quality of production. Standing here by the computer rack, so there's some buzz in the background, and videotaped up close and personal. Glenn Grothman. Did we always have it wrong? Is it really Grothman? Did Mom chastise him and tell him, use the proper pronunciation? It's Grothman, you little shit.
Hey, Mom! The meatloaf! I do not know. How was he introduced today? And we could probably find it. Someone could find it.
I believe
he went as Grothman.
I thought it was
Collins said it.
the whiny bitch from Wisconsin.
Yeah, but he was introduced as Grothman, but I mean, Trump introduced him as Grothman.
In a lot of ways, I'm afraid our country is in the process of committing suicide today.
And Grothman did not vote for impeachment, I would assume.
Well, they haven't voted yet.
He did
the
not.
Full House. We're waiting on that. That's why we
He
can't
didn't indicate that he was going to vote for impeachment. Come on, man. They're getting up there and saying how they're going to vote. I'm sure he said.
He's fucking against it, man.
Come on, man.
What, do you think he was going to change his mind? No, his whole take was they hate Trump because he's winning. They hate Trump because he's winning.
So
he went through a whole litany of items he felt like Trump was winning on. A lot of them, I think, were probably reflected in that fine letter from the president, the love letter to Nancy Pelosi.
The very stable letter.
Be it Grothman or Grothman, I think a lot of his themes reflected those fine themes laid out in that love letter. And my understanding, and this thought had crossed my mind, we said maybe Pat Cipollone. No, apparently a lot of the flowery language in the Trump letter.
Yeah.
Well, that was plagiarized from earlier Stephen Miller speeches. The Nazi guy on the staff.
Really? And then highlighted, touched up with a little bit of Trump here and a little bit of Trump there.
Nazi party.
Yeah, fucking Nazi party. I hate Illinois Nazis. I hate White House Nazis. I hate Stephen Miller.
We're going to be
and
doing
apparently
one
he
thing,
may
one
be
thing only, killing Nazis.
He may be the author of the love letter to Nancy Pelosi.
Wow, I had not heard that. Breaking news, Crudy, laying it on me. Well, again, you can tell very clearly which parts Trump edited with that very strong and powerful letter.
How hard can that be? Saying that Nazis are bad.
Nazis are bad. It's easy. Say it with me.
There's no factual evidence that's been presented in this thing today that Nazis are bad. None of the fact witnesses said that Nazis were bad.
That's terrible.
Donald Trump's going to a rally in Michigan. Your former home state, right, Don?
Yeah. I was born in Michigan. Where is the Trump rally in Michigan? It's got to be like in western
I'm not
Michigan.
sure where.
Northern Michigan? I'll see if we can find out.
Some guy from Tennessee. Some guy from Tennessee talking now. But Trump will get impeached. Literally, the vote, the actual marker in history. That will happen. And, I wish it would happen while we were on this fine little broadcast. Maybe we do it on the radio as well. But I'm fearful that it will happen after this fine showdown. But it could happen right about the time Donald Trump's going on stage in Michigan. Because let's not forget, it's Eastern time zone there. So it's an hour earlier, right? So you want to be done by the local news. So anyways, Donald Trump will be on the stage when the House is voting to impeach him. I'm sure it'll be a very stable and well-given speech.
Here we
Maybe
go.
Written by Stephen Miller.
In Battle Creek, Michigan, clad in red, white, and blue, and mega gear, supporters waited outside in the cold to see President Trump in Southwest Michigan. Hundreds, literally hundreds of people flooded the Kellogg Arena in Battle Creek Wednesday ahead. Hundreds. Here's what's Elizabeth Miller of Indiana says she
That's
doesn't
a big crowd
like the
for a
cold.
president. Hundreds.
I hate the cold, but the worst thing for me, Miller said, I'll do it for Trump. Outside the arena, vendors sold sweatshirts, scarves, hats, flags, and gloves marked with Trump 2020 and other popular slogans. Debbie Rymit, 55, one of about 20 people who slept in tents on a concrete floor to be first in line to see the president. I appreciate and respect him for everything he's done for us, she said. When Trump stands his ground against Democrats, he's standing for us. Another
We stand
camper
for
who
you.
spent more than 48 hours waiting to see Trump said she had been to other rallies, but never to one as cold as Wednesday's. I just want to show my support to the man who loves our country, Julie Ayers, 60 of Lapeer County, said. Yeah, so another rally going on today for the Trumpsters. The cult, they wait outside in the cold to see this man. They love it when he lies to them.
Dominic, we're doing a live show tomorrow. Hopefully people won't have to wait out in the cold for very long. We're opening the doors at the Barrymore Theater tomorrow at 5:30. And we're doing it live, Dom. We're going live tomorrow from the front of the stage at the Barrymore about 6 p.m. What time you rolling into town, may I ask?
We're doing a regular show, man. So I got to be in studio by 3:06. So I'm sure I'll be there like 3:05. I don't know, man.
You gonna helicopter in? I thought we got to set that thing up early. Don't
Yeah,
we have to go down
I'll
there
come
and
in. I'll,
hang
get
a banner
get a
and-
workout done in the morning, and then get on into Madison and get ready to rock and roll, man. It's gonna be a great night, another debate night, and hopefully some friends will show up, and we'll have a party at the Barrymore and have some drinks and a little smoke and hang out with our friends and watch another debate and see how the Democratic presidential candidates react to the fact that their potential rival Trump, because of course he's not the rival yet. There's other Republicans running against Trump, and Trump is going to be impeached today. I'm anxious to hear what everybody has to say about that.
You know, people could call us. There's like a dozen watching us right now.
Hey.
844-967-2789. You know, after the fact, when most of the people will watch, it'll be too late.
It'll
then.
be too late then. Come
but
on.
you can call right now at 844-967-2789.
Right here.
The first caller right now gets a dream date with Dominic Selvia.
Hey!
He'll take you to the Barrymore Theater, show you where the real magic happens backstage.
What am I, Nikki 6? 844-967-2789. It will be a good time. Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
You guys were talking about punching Nazis a little bit ago. Did you hear about the UFC fighter over the weekend?
No.
Got his ass kicked.
Yeah, there's a Nigerian immigrant who went up against a MAGA UFC fighter, and the MAGA guy got his jaw broken.
Oof.
After saying some very bad things about the immigrant's family. It's pretty awesome.
Wow, really?
I guess he talked a little too much shit and couldn't back it up. You know
Pretty
what that's
much.
like, don't you, Dom?
I have no idea. My mouth does not write checks that my ass can't cash.
Every time I've ever gotten into an altercation with somebody, and very few times, I can count it on on one hand.
Yeah, but you have big hands.
But if I ever did that, the words come out of my mouth at one point, is this what you wanted? Is this what you wanted?
I'd be like, no, I actually was hoping to kick your ass.
I warned you. I told you.
told
and then
you.
this is what is this what you wanted?
Dude, you are like an immovable object. I've like run headlong into you, and I'm not a little guy. Not diminutive like Dominic, but
come on,
doesn't
man.
seem to budge you.
Yeah, one of my roommates, his favorite pastime was getting drunk and just literally running into me.
See if he could move you at all.
Yeah, I have one fighting move. It's grab and fall.
Not one to stick and move. See,
No,
when you're my
don't,
size,
don't throw punches. You'll
No,
break your hand.
No.
Throw other things into people or people into things, or just grab and fall.
Watch out for
Now,
those
do you
ashtrays,
think people
man.
are watching because if they're fans of ours, they probably have some of this on in the background. We should turn it up a little bit. I'm like
Brett-
watching these guys.
All right, let's hear it. We got Brett Guthrie. Is that
Brian,
who-
you fix it.
The facts and the evidence establish, beyond peradventure, that the president abused the power of his office for personal gain and sought to cover up his misconduct by obstructing the Congress. What we do today goes to the heart of the oath we take to support and defend the Constitution. These actions are as necessary
I was
as
going to
they
say,
are
is
heartbreaking.
this guy one of the good guys
It
or
is
one of the
the
bad
president,
guys?
Not clear
not
where his
any member
direction
of this
is yet.
House who has brought us to this sad
Seems
place.
like the Dems are going up to
His
the front
actions
of the
echo in
House.
this
They're
chamber.
giving their
And like a
pleas
tin
in broad
can
daylight from
tied
the
to his
customary
leg
response.
will rattle behind him
And I'm not
through
sure,
the
it
pages
seems
of
like the
history.
Republicans are kind of hanging out at the
Final
Waffle
analysis,
House,
none of us will escape
and Doug
the
Collins
truth.
is kind of
It will
leading
come for
the
us all in this world
shitstorm.
or the next. What is the truth? The president used taxpayer money and official acts to pressure a foreign government to help him win re-election by slandering a fellow American.
Yes.
How do we know this truth? We know because brave Americans, soldiers, and public servants.
Hey, Jim Santel
came
just
forward to
texted
reveal
us,
the
Don. You see?
president's
I did not. What did he
misconduct.
say?
And the president,
You've got it right.
he
John
continues to
Roberts found
undertake
that
an
the individual
unprecedented
mandate
cover-up
cannot be
to stonewall the
supported
public
under the
and
Commerce
obstruct their
Clause,
representatives in Congress. He
which
withholds
permits
access
Congress to
documents and
regulate
records
commerce, but not
belonging to the
compel
public
people
that would
to
further
participate.
establish his mendacity.
Then he goes on.
His advisors and associates
I think
from
the
testifying
however is when he
before
tells
the
us
public
we got it wrong.
conceal the
However,
laws
as you
they
noted,
witnessed.
Roberts did
His actions
uphold the
are
mandate on the
unworthy of
basis
the
that the Congress can
presidency.
constitutionally
Today is about right
impose a
and
tax
wrong
on
and whether
people
we still
without
know the
health
difference.
insurance. After today's
Today, we
Fifth
hold the
Circuit
president accountable.
decision,
If we
bounces back
fail
down
to
to the
do
district
so,
court,
future
and
presidents
then
will see
likely
corruption
back up to
as
the
without
appeals court.
consequence.
SCOTUS might
And
take
there,
another
our
look
democracy
at all of
goes
this.
to die.
Yeah, the Commerce Clause.
We
That's what I
inherit
couldn't
this
think of
republic
before.
from
Thank
our
you,
enemies.
Jim.
Even-
Appreciate it,
Borrow
man.
it from our
Even our
children.
Facebook
With
discussions
humility,
have
we pray
experts.
that the history of this day will guide us to a better future.
Come on, most people,
for
you know,
our
you're
nation.
lucky if you get a like or an
Yield back.
unlike, right? An ugly,
Gentleman from
Georgia.
Thank you,
unsmiley
Madam Speaker. Yield
face.
30 seconds to the gentleman from Missouri.
We got
Mr.
former
Long.
U.S.
Gentleman's
attorneys
recognized for 30
texting in
seconds.
real time.
Who will be a
Thank
guest
you,
on
Madam
the show
Speaker, and
tomorrow?
we have
What do you
never,
say?
ever in the history of this
3:30, I
country
believe.
Seen a presidency like this one.
Yes,
Once
tomorrow,
again,
3:30. Jim
I
Santel,
forgot
former
you were
U.S.
talking
attorney.
to me. I'm like,
Yo,
yes,
what?
that's
A million women marching
true.
in
I'm
Washington.
watching these guys.
All right, let's turn it up a little bit here. Who do we
Supported
got?
Hillary Clinton had their windows broken out here in Washington. 'Cause
Chubby
people
guy
were
with
so
pink
upset
tie,
that this
Billy
man was
Long,
elected president
Missouri.
of the United States. He's had his head held underwater for
What?
almost 3 years now. Never coming up for
Waterboarding or
Just keep pushing it
worse.
down.
What?
Lowest black unemployment ever. Lowest Hispanic unemployment ever.
When did they
Highest
start
stock
caring
market
about
ever.
low black
Very
unemployment
And
I'd bring
rates?
back a hell of a lot worse than waterboarding.
Balance of my time.
I yield back.
Reserves?
Yes.
Gentleman from Georgia.
Madam Speaker, I yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Nebraska, Mr. Fortenberry.
Gentleman's recognized for 30 seconds.
Mr. Dingleberry. Where is Dingleberry?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have been concerned since the beginning of this impeachment process
There's a
that
lot
has
of
been
concern.
driven by a predetermined guilty verdict. It's unfair, it's wrong,
Better to have
and
a
now every
predetermined,
future president,
not
Democrat
guilty
or
verdict.
Republican, will
Right,
have
like
to
the
worry
Senate?
that the impeachment process will be
He
driven
does have a good shock of
as a
hair.
blunt force
Kind of a
political
Matt Flynn-like
instrument.
head of hair. This
It's been
guy's
said that
got
this
going
day is
on.
sad. It's not sad, it's regrettable. But this day will end shortly. The House has had its cathartic moment. Tomorrow will begin a new day. Let's get back to work. I yield
He's
back.
kind of got
Gentleman
the
yields back. Gentleman
the
from
Blair
California.
haircut from
Madam
Facts
Speaker, we
of Life,
continue to
just
reserve.
a little bit.
Gentleman from Georgia.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from California,
What are you
Mr.
talking
Lamar.
about? What are you
Gentleman's
talking about?
recognized for 30 seconds.
Ready, fire, aim. What we're hearing today are made-up articles to fit an ever-shrinking impeachment
Down at the
foothold.
shooting range.
George Washington could be impeached under this criteria. Democrats believe they are saving our democracy with these hysterical made-up
coordinated
charges,
and
which is
abused
odd
the
because we're a
office
republic,
of the
not a
presidency
democracy,
and
as they
then-
keep
Right.
insisting.
If that's
Trying to
Those
get the
same powers to
Persians
impeach, we hear. Several new and returning members
to
have come
interfere in our
specifically
election.
to impeach the President Trump. I hear a lot today about sadness and solemnity. From impeachment?
Solemnity.
No, because their candidate lost in 2016.
No, that's not it.
American people chose Donald J. Trump to lead us into prosperity, not a socialist government. We will survive this day,
Like
but I call upon the American people to
31.5%
see
of
through
us.
this sham
Gentleman
and
from
live
California.
to
Sham.
hear
It's
speaking
a
the
hoax.
So
truth.
thank you.
Gentleman's reserves. Gentleman from Georgia.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Adderholt.
Gentleman's
I
recognized.
got a pretty good dang old idea what's going on. I tell you what, man,
I yield my time
Mr.
back.
Johnson from South Dakota, I yield 30 seconds.
Mr. Johnson's recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam
Speaker,
Fuckers,
I'm
go more
voting
in
no.
30-second increments.
Impeachment is not in the best
Forever,
interests
I'm
of this
afraid.
country, and in fact, it has only deepened the partisan divide that truly plagues this country. When the sun comes up tomorrow, I pray with
Who
all
let
my
their
heart
kid up there?
that the anger and the
Is this guy an
division
intern?
in this chamber will give way to an honorableness and a productivity
Dusty.
and a time of working together. I yield back.
Sure, it's not
Gentleman
Rusty.
from California.
Oh,
Madam
Rusty.
Speaker, I reserve.
Gentleman from Georgia.
Is that Ron
Thank you, Madam
Johnson's
Speaker. This is Air
kid?
Traffic Control is
Dusty
getting in line for a
Johnson?
landing. Let's go back to Mr. Adderholt.
No,
30
note
seconds
that
from the
Senator
gentleman from
Cruz went
Alabama,
2
Mr.
minutes
Adderholt.
over, so.
Gentleman's recognized for 30 seconds.
Oh, these bastards.
Thank
30
you,
seconds.
Madam Chair.
We got to
True,
wait for
today
these
a
goobers
duly
to run
elected
up to the
president has been
microphone.
impeached by the House of Representatives by the Democrats compelled by
on,
partisanship
Goober.
and not by the facts.
Partisanship.
I'm proud to stand here with President Donald Trump, and I plan to cast my vote
I got a nice used
against
car
both
out
articles
back.
of impeachment.
You
This
look great in
is
it.
It's not that the president abuses
I've
power.
never been a big
It is
fan
my
of
colleagues
the
on the other side of the
mafia-style
aisle who are
colored
abusing one of the most
shirt with the
powerful
white
tools
collar.
that's been entrusted to the Congress in the Constitution by our
I
founding
don't
fathers.
judge people by their
Twisting
clothing,
the
Rudy.
Constitution to impeach a
Gentleman's
president.
time's expired.
You
Time's
figure-
up.
Don't give a
Speaker, we
Come
consider
on,
reserve-
give up the
Gentleman
mic,
from
dude.
Georgia.
You got 30 seconds. You're still talking.
Madam Speaker, this
Bye,
time I yield 30
Felicia.
seconds to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Olson.
Gentleman's recognized.
Madam Speaker,
Not talking now.
Webster's
talking.
Dictionary defines the Star Chamber
Not
as,
talking.
quote, characterized by secrecy and often being irresponsibly arbitrary and oppressive. Sadly, my
Like my
Democrat
parents
friends have turned this chamber, the People's
What?
Chamber, into the Star Chamber of the people.
I mean, these guys,
One great
they're
example.
elected.
The most important
Pete
thing
won
we can do as
election?
members
Pete
is
Olson,
declare
Republican
war.
from Texas.
Next one
Let's hear what he has
is
to say.
impeach a president. We're hoping Republicans to have every member stand up and vote.
Republicans.
Like for Speaker, say their vote loudly.
Gentleman's
That's been
time's
denied.
expired.
CNN has
Gentleman
been
from
denied.
California.
I
Speaker,
yield
we
back.
reserve the
This
balance
is
of
a
our
shame.
time.
Gentleman from Georgia.
CNN.
Gentlemen,
Suck it,
thank you,
CNN.
Madam Speaker. I yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from
Wow,
Pennsylvania.
that
See, I
dude's-
took that crack at CNN.
Get his ass out of here, man.
Gentleman's
You
recognized
wanted to listen
for
to
30
him.
seconds.
You did not
the
disappoint.
party
Member, thank you,
of
Madam
CNN
Speaker.
sucks.
While this institution should rightfully ensure that the law is faithfully executed by the administrative branch, this exercise has shown itself to be the ultimate manipulation of the legislative branch's oversight powers in order to achieve political gain. I caution my colleagues who have placed political expediency ahead of moderation.
You are the enemy of the
Your
people.
votes later today will forever change this institution. Imagine a
He's a little
future where this
hoarse.
body utilizes
He was out
the most
partying,
severe
drinking
of its
last
constitutional tools to continually put the oppositional party on trial.
Again, I
And
question
with
this
that,
man
I
is
yield
an
back.
elected representative of the U.S. Congress.
Madam Speaker, it's my
John
pleasure
Cox
to yield
told
1
us
minute to the
Well,
gentleman
what
from
makes
Maryland,
you think
Mr.
that
Brown.
Gentleman's
that's
recognized for 1
so
minute.
terribly hard to do, man? Just because you get elected doesn't mean you're smart.
Madam Speaker,
Democrats,
when I was
for the
Commissioner
most part,
Second
are.
Lieutenant of the United States Army, I swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution.
Second lieutenant,
and I've
that's
done
like
so
the entry
13
level
times
for
in my
any
35 years of public
officer.
service. That oath
ripping
means
on a guy's
everything.
service, dude?
To serve and fight for our country, to protect
That's like
and
saying I
promote
was a
our
private
values.
first class.
Yet President Trump
Were you?
betrayed his oath.
Yes.
He abused his power,
Okay.
For a
the
while.
immense power of the presidency.
Until I got
He
busted
threatened our
down.
elections
No.
by inviting foreign
That's not
interference.
true.
He chose
I made it all the
investigating
way to
a political
specialist
rival
E4.
over defending our national security. So today, we must use our power, the extraordinary power endowed by our Constitution and entrusted by the people, the power to impeach. We must hold
Power
President Trump accountable,
to the
or else we will be
people.
complicit in undermining our
Impeach
democracy,
that
our security,
big
and our dignity.
MFer.
His conduct demonstrates his unfitness to serve as commander-in-chief and warrants removal from office. The oath I took as a member of Congress is the same I took as a soldier. An oath that reminds me values matter, duty, honor, and the rule of law matter. To keep
He
my
said
oath
duty.
to the people I serve and the country I love, today I will vote
Gentlemen.
to impeach the President of the United States. I
Rep.
yield back.
Anthony
Speaker,
Brown,
yield
a
30 seconds to
Democrat
the
from
gentleman from Illinois,
Maryland.
Mr. Hood.
Oh,
Gentleman's
chalk one up
recognized
for the
for
good
30
guys. Another
Thank you,
vote
Madam
for
Speaker.
impeachment.
I've said from the
At least
beginning
he
of this
claims
process,
he will. We'll have to wait and
impeachment
see
is
because
and
they
should be
haven't
the
voted yet,
nuclear
right,
option,
Fruit?
reserved for the most
Right.
treasonous activity and the most serious activity. Clearly, that has been not met here. As I've reviewed
you
the
sure?
facts and
Like
evidence as a
James
former
Comey.
federal prosecutor, I've read the transcripts, I've watched the hearings, I've read the whistleblower report.
Me too.
That has not been met here. In addition, this
Hey, you
process
wanna get high, man?
requires due process
Yes, I
and
do.
transparency. We shouldn't be here tonight doing this. This is a travesty.
Gentleman yields
Travesty.
back. Gentleman from California.
Darren, go
Speaker, I
put
reserve
your
the balance of our
hood
time.
back
Gentleman
on.
from Georgia.
Thank you,
Darren
Madam
LaHood
Speaker.
from
Yield 30
Illinois,
seconds to the gentleman from Maryland,
Republican.
Mr. Harris.
Gentleman's recognized for 30 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, it's unbelievable. The few Americans that are going to be watching this, because they know what the outcome is. We all know what the outcome is. They're
We got a few
wondering why
watching
are we,
us on
why are
Facebook
we
live
trying to
stream,
negate
Don.
the vote of
That counts
63
for
million
something.
Americans.
Hey,
instead of
what's up,
talking
people?
about the things that
I'm not gonna
Americans
be
care
ignored.
about. Prescription drug coverage, the high cost of prescription drugs, the high
Bunny
cost of
cooker.
healthcare, securing our borders, keeping our economy going. These are the things we should be talking about. No, instead, we're going to pass this resolution tonight and then go home for Christmas vacation instead of doing the job of
And I'm going to
America.
get
I yield
drunk,
back.
and I'm going to sleep with my wife.
Madam Speaker, we continue to reserve.
I crap in your knee. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Kansas, Mr. Watkins.
Gentleman's recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, I was a political newcomer before this, and just like President Trump, perhaps like me, he was naive to think that this House, that in the people's House, everybody was true and just. It's not the case. Democrats
And
were
that's where the
saddened by
big
the
bucks
solemn
start
day. They
rolling
weren't
in.
waiting for
No
all the
shit.
evidence. This was
This guy
always
is the
about
spitting
politics.
image of a
Because they
guy who
loathe
should
the
be
president
working
because
fries.
he didn't play by their beltway
Steve
rules.
Watkins from Kansas.
I should have known.
I started
The
on
fact
cleanup
is,
just
Kansas
like
is
you
better.
guys. But now,
The U.S. is
see,
better
I'm
and the world
washing
is better
lettuce.
because of Donald
Soon
Trump.
I'll be on fries, then the
You see,
grill.
they'll pay you
A year or
15
two,
grand
I
to
make
go
assistant
live in
manager.
Topeka Dam.
And that's where the
yield 30
big bucks
seconds to the
start
gentleman from
rolling in.
California, Mr.
That's my
Steve
my plan
Watkins.
B.
I mean, the Republican literally stood up there and said that Trump is just going against what the Beltway wants him to do. I mean, do Republicans want to coordinate illegally with other governments to help their elect?
have brought forth articles of
right.
impeachment that are negated by two simple facts.
When you talk about the
Namely, the
Beltway, this
military
guy's
aid to
got like
Ukraine
a
was provided,
size 48
and no
Beltway, I
investigation
think.
was ever started. The real offense.
Not that I'm one to judge.
Won the election,
He called
and
me
their fear
fat
is that he'll
and
win again,
said I was going to
despite
die on
all
the
their
toilet.
evidence. I will vote
Don't die on
against
the
the
toilet,
partisan
Fruity.
attempt to overturn an election. Thank you.
I know he's not talking to me.
Gentleman from California.
I'm going to die in the
Speaker,
gutter like all
continue to reserve the balance of our
self-respecting
time.
Fruities do.
Gentleman from Georgia.
That's
Thank you, Madam
King
Speaker. I
Calvert,
yield 30 seconds to the gentleman
Republican
from
from
Tennessee, Ms.
California.
Burton.
You know, if I was a
Gentleman's
freaking
recognized for
Republican
30
from
seconds.
California,
Madam Speaker, I rise
I don't know if
today in
I'd go out in
opposition
public.
to impeachment
You know,
against
the
President
people may
Donald
not
Trump.
realize I'm
This
a
is based on
Republican,
hearsay that
but when
were
you go out in
made by
public
partisan
and you
witness behind closed
stand
doors.
up and you talk during the impeachment
This
trail,
impeachment is a sham,
your
Madam
constituents
Speaker,
realize
and
which
has
party
divided
you're
this
on,
country.
which
Congress
team
is
you're on.
No one's
wasting
watching,
time on this
man. The
impeachment.
American
It would be
people
better
see
used
through
addressing
the
issues
charade.
that are facing
Sunny
Americans, like
California.
securing our southern border, the opioid epidemic, or establishing a constitutionally mandated budget. And now,
Don't worry, nobody's
wait for the
listening
Senate
anyway.
trial to pass the USMCA that the President and the House
Hey, Brian,
Republicans have been
go
working
fuck yourself.
on for over a year. I'm disappointed in the path Congress chose to go
Gentleman's
down,
time
Madam
expired.
Speaker.
That guy.
From
And for
California.
the record, Madam Speaker, I think you're doing a wonderful job.
Madam Speaker, I reserve the balance of our time.
Gentleman from Georgia.
You don't! Speaker, I yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Gosar.
Gentleman's recognized for 30 seconds.
All right, when this number gets down
It's obvious today
below the
that there's
number
an
of
intense hatred
candidates
from
on the
Democrats
debate
of
stage
President
tomorrow
Donald
night,
Trump.
the
Why do they
Facebook
hate
live
the man
stream
so much?
production is
Maybe
done.
it's because of the out-of-control government gone
Hey,
wild.
Castor's watching.
The
Do you see him
abuses of
over there
FISA, the
hanging
abuses
out,
by the
chilling,
FBI,
being
the
one of the cool
abuses in
kids for once?
State Department. Many of these, maybe it's just the previous administration they're trying to
Booby.
It's sad.
I'm your white
This is
knight.
a shameful act of what we're doing today. Shame on the Democrats.
Best
Shame
Christmas
on
movie
pursuing
ever.
this.
Die
I
Hard.
ask everybody to vote no and to
I
take
can
no
give 'em to you.
and vote for these articles of impeachment.
Gentleman from California.
Madam Speaker, I reserve the balance.
Gentleman from Georgia.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Posey.
Gentleman's recognized for
Can't
30
we do
seconds.
mercy
Thank you, Madam
rule like
Speaker.
they do in
This is a sad
kids
day for
football?
America.
You know,
man, I
one
mean,
team gets
we
up by
know
9
this impeachment
Want
touchdowns.
to
They
get
just
up
let
and
the
say
clock
their
They know
run.
this
Come on, they have the
impeachment is a
right.
sham.
I want my
They know we know this
congressional
impeachment is a
representative
sham.
to speak.
And they know that most of the American people know that this
You know,
impeachment is a shameful
we haven't heard.
sham.
I have not personally
We know
seen
that
Mike
it began
Gallagher
the moment the
speak.
president was elected, long before he ever
Duffy,
had a
I guess,
telephone
will do
call
most of his
with
talking
any
over on
foreign leaders.
CNN tonight.
We've heard the numerous
Sensenbrenner
quotations
got
from
3
them
minutes
that
this
validate
morning.
those very points. And yet they
Didn't he?
persist in
Like
trying to
3
overturn
minutes, that's a big
the
time
duly
frame.
elected president.
Yeah, I mean,
of the United
he's- I
States
think
of
he's
It
America.
sounds like Droopy
Election.
Dog doing a Ronald
When
Reagan
the
impression
president
in the
calls
Fargo
for-
movie.
Gentleman
An
from California.
Boxers.
Madam Speaker, I've heard
I
some of my
just
colleagues in
wanted
a
to
row
tell
now, and it's
everybody
interesting
here
to
that
see
it's,
how
well,
very few
I'm
of them
just
want to
trying
address
to do
any
a
of the
Ronald
facts
Reagan
of the president's
impression, and
misconduct.
it's just
Nor do they wish
very
to
bad.
defend, nor do they wish.
Oh, come on,
apparently,
Adam Schiff's
Madam
talking.
Speaker, I've struck a nerve. Nor do they wish to defend a president who would extort an ally, withhold military aid to help him cheat in an election. They don't want to defend that conduct. So instead they say, oh, Democrats really want to impeach the president, or Democrats don't like the president. But what they can't say is that this president's conduct was ethical. What they can't say was that this president's conduct was legal. What they can't say was this president's conduct was constitutional. What they can't say is this president has upheld his oath of office. No, they can't say that. All they can say is, we don't like the process. or our colleagues are just too happy to impeach, or it's overturning the will of the public when it's a Republican president. Interestingly, my colleagues who supported the impeachment of Bill Clinton did not think it was overturning the will of the people. Apparently, this impeachment provision only overturns the will of the people if it's a Republican president. I would like to give them more credit than that. What is the distinction here is the seriousness of the conduct. This remedy was put in the Constitution for a reason. It's not an unconstitutional
here's
remedy.
the problem.
It is part
Adam
of the
Schiff's
Constitution.
IQ is like 50
The
points
only way
higher
you can
than
conceive of
pretty
this
much
remedy
any
as
of the
being
Republican
unconstitutional
panelists they've
is
run
if
out
you
there
believe,
today
as the
so
president
far.
does, that he is
And
the
it's,
state. That
once
anything
you've
that
been
opposes
dumbed down by
him
listening to Doug
opposes
Collins
the
and
state is
Louis
by
Gohmert
definition
for most of the day.
anti-constitutional.
I'm not sure if people have the
But that, of
intellect
course,
left
is nonsense.
to
but it is more
appreciate
than
Adam
nonsense.
Schiff.
I did not
It
hear
is
Gohmert today, but
dangerous
let me hear Schiff here for a
nonsense.
moment.
Madam Speaker, I'm proud to recognize the gentlewoman from Washington, Ms. Schreier, for 1 minute.
Gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, the people of Washington's 8th District sent me to Congress to fight for their families and make thoughtful, evidence-based decisions. I did not come to Congress to impeach a president, but evidence is evidence. And a balance of powers is fundamental to our democracy.
Alternative evidence.
On my first day in office, like everybody else here, I took an oath to uphold the Constitution and protect our country. History will judge this moment.
Is like a
Given all the
pendant
facts
on her
before us,
necklace?
impeachment is the only remedy. I yield back.
Impeachment is the only
Thank you, Madam
remedy.
Speaker. I'm sure
Microwaves that turn into cameras,
He
etc.
showed up a little late, hadn't heard all the arguments. We beat the facts back all the time. It is the majority side that had to run through this.
No, I've been thinking about y'all and y'all dang old bottom and all what's going to get moving again. I think y'all ought to go jogging, swimming, and water bunch, man. They're going to be bad having you pooping just like you used to, man. I know it's going to work.
Now you'll back my
He can't
time.
make the case. He can only put it in his notes and then come to the mic when he can't be questioned and talk about it. That's the problem, and that's the chord that's been struck. With that, I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from North Dakota, Mr. Armstrong.
Gentleman's recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Once President Trump
How
was
many
sworn
Congress
in,
people
articles
do
of
they get from
impeachment were
North Dakota?
introduced almost immediately.
I mean, I know you
in
get
3
two
years,
senators,
House
but how many
Democrats have
Congress people? There's
introduced
like
10
nine
Can't be that many.
resolutions
This
in
guy's come on
support of
like
over
2 or 3
100 of
times.
their members, and all of that
Oh,
before
yeah,
July
this
25th phone call. But
little
also during
young
that time, the
Nazi in
Russia
training.
conspiracy hoax was exposed.
Conspiracy
Obstruction
hoax.
of justice charges
300
were
people are gonna
abandoned after
decide
the
all
Mueller
the
hearings
election
fell
from North
flat.
Dakota.
So after 2 years, 19 lawyers, 40 agents, 2,800 subpoenas, 500 warrants, and 17
many
lies in a
convictions?
FISA warrant application, they had nothing to show
criminal
for it.
Nothing to
sentences
show
to
for it.
Undeterred by the
prison?
facts and
Nothing to
uninterested
show
in
for it.
governing
Listen to
the
Kelly
beat
Armstrong,
marched
the
on.
Republican from
So
North
here we
Dakota.
are today.
Nothing to show
we have
for
no
it.
quid pro quo, no
Quid
bribery,
pro quo?
no extortion, no crimes
bro?
alleged in the articles at all. But don't
Bro,
worry, because
bro.
we have a
What's up,
brand
bro?
new
Big league.
632-page
There's big
report
league.
alleging all kinds of
Quid
things.
pro quo.
Some for the very first time.
Yes.
This isn't a
Squid
somber,
pro
solemn process. This is a political drive-by. They just want President Trump gone. But this never-ending march towards overturning the 2016 election
That's
has
not what it is.
consequences.
It does.
Congratulations.
You're telling
You
63
played
million
yourself.
voters that their votes that you don't respect their vote. Voters in states like mine who
He's
not
kinda
that long ago used to
breathless.
send Democrats to this august chamber, but recently have found no home in
Oh,
the Democratic
Kelly.
Party.
Oh, Kelly. Oh, Kelly
Who feel
Armstrong.
that their values
Oh,
have
Kelly.
been replaced by a liberal elitist agenda. Who
Agenda?
feel that their partisan,
Is that like vagina?
partisan points are more important than practical solutions. Your never-ending impeachment quest is a constant reminder to them that you don't trust their judgment, you don't understand
Vagina.
their way of life, and you couldn't care less about the issues that are important to them.
He's
As Chairman
vagina.
Nadler has so ominously stated, if you're serious about removing a president from office,
what's Kelly
what
wearing
you're
in his
really
pocket
doing is
square? Is that
overturning
like a
the results
parking
of the
ticket?
last election. Well, they were serious. They spent the last 3 years talking about it, unwilling to accept the results
guy
of
couldn't carry his
2016.
blank
I wonder
strap.
if my colleagues
Jockstrap.
recognize the irony that their impeachment
Alex, what is
vendetta
jockstrap?
is the greatest election interference of all. And it was homegrown right here in the halls of Congress.
Ooh, I like homegrown.
And with that, I yield
Members
back.
are reminded to address their remarks to the chair. Gentleman from California.
Madam
As
Speaker,
long
we
as that
reserve the
home
balance for
that it's
time.
grown in
Gentleman
is in the
reserved. Gentleman from
Emerald
Georgia.
Triangle of Northern California, Dom.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. At this time, I yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from New York, Mr. Zeldin.
The gentleman's recognized for 3 minutes.
This impeachment is an embarrassment for House Democrats.
3 minutes.
On the
I could have
substance,
sex
Dems
twice
claim
during this
that their
guy's
case is
time frame.
uncontested.
Uncontested.
Relying on presumptions, hearsay, and
Wait a minute.
3%
To
of the
embarrass
story,
your mom.
trying to connect dots that aren't actually connected.
They like this
Some
guy.
inconvenient
This-
truths.
This young
President Zelensky didn't know that there was a hold on aid
Lee
until
Zeldin.
August 29th. The aid
He's
gets
supposed to be,
released shortly thereafter, and Ukraine didn't have to do
mover,
anything
up
in
and
order
comer,
to
moving
get
up
aid
from the
released.
back bench,
And
moving on
President
up
Zelensky says no demand, no quid pro quo,
to the
no
Lower
pressure.
East
But
Side.
Democrats want the public to ignore the other 97% of the story. See, it doesn't work like that. Senate Democrats want new witnesses to show why there was a hold on aid. Odd request if you think you've already proven your case.
Ooh,
At the heart of this
got
debate,
him
two
now, Lee.
investigations are being discussed
Keep him
between
on the
countries.
ropes, Lee.
Democrats and media allies want the public to believe it's all just
Well,
debunked
here's
that
the thing,
Ukrainians
Dom.
interfered
Amongst
in the
the
2016
Republican caucus,
election.
he is the
They want
smart
you to
guy.
ignore Avakov and Charlie's comments that
And
Shalom
Republicans
worked
done
at the
something
Ukrainian
remarkable.
embassy, origins of the Steele dossier, the Black Ledger, and
The
more.
back leisure?
The problem with all of
It's really
this
radical.
is that the American public are smarter
You know, he's
than
thinking about
Democrats
the
are giving them
black
credit for.
negligee he's got
Next,
in his
the
congressional
Democrats
office.
claim Republicans are arguing that it was Ukraine and not Russia
What?
that wanted to interfere and was interfering in the 2016 election.
Wait, what?
Fat,
drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
And of course, we have the Burisma-Biden issue of a corrupt Ukrainian
What,
energy
he didn't
company run by a corrupt Ukrainian
Freaking know
oligarch
that
hiring
it
Hunter
was going to be
Biden
his
at at
turn?
least
Like, if you have all day to
$50,000 per
rehearse,
month
you know this
with
shit's
no energy
coming, right?
experience and no
Why
Ukraine
can't Lee
experience solely
Zeldin make a
because
cogent?
so
he is
excited.
Hunter Biden's son. Now, the company wanted to hire Hunter
Biden
because they wanted to curry favor. There was this ongoing corruption investigation. Enter Joe Biden. He gets
Pay attention, son. This is for your own good.
Threatening the loss of $1 billion if it didn't happen immediately, which it was. Now, Democrats believe Burisma and Biden should be immune from scrutiny. I disagree.
What?
Never again should that conflict of interest ever happen. And our governments should be working together
Isn't that the
to
Russian
get to the
talking
bottom
point
of all of this.
that Shotkin
This
was
has also been a total
pushing on
disaster on the
Giuliani?
process.
Why, yes,
From
it
getting
was.
a federal worker to file a whistleblower complaint to Schiff's version made up of the July 25th call. In closed-door interviews, Schiff was prosecutor, judge, jury, and witness coach. Every day, he loved getting America drunk on his favorite cocktail, 3 ingredients. Cherry-picking leaks, withholding key facts, and misstating evidence.
Ooh, see what he did
In
there?
the
He made a drink.
depositions and in the public hearings, the
I've
president's
not yet
counsel was
begun
not
to
invited
defile
to attend,
myself.
present evidence, or cross-examine witnesses. And Republicans weren't allowed to call witnesses like Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, and many others.
I
And
know.
there was the House Judiciary
Let's have a
debacle,
spelling
where Schiff couldn't even
contest.
show up to present
Why
his
couldn't we
reports.
call
He
Santa
had to have one
Claus?
of his staffers present it for him.
Why don't we call
This
Hillary?
impeachment is ripping our country in half. It's fatally flawed on the process, the substance, the intentions, and the consequences.
Gentlemen's time's
It's a total shift show. I encourage all my
Oh,
colleagues
shift
to
He
show?
almost
California.
said shit show.
I'm sure of it. I hate it.
I thank the Speaker. We continue to reserve the balance of our
Gentleman
time.
reserves. Gentleman from Georgia.
Madam Speaker, I yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr.
Oh,
Meadows.
hell.
Gentleman's recognized
Oh,
for 3
Meadows?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, today, as we sit here debating
Burning
impeachment,
down the house.
you know, they all want to talk about it's
Freedom
the
Caucus.
Constitution.
Freedom.
It's Alexander Hamilton.
Alexander
The
Hamilton.
last 30 days, I've
This
heard
guy,
more about Hamilton
he's a birther.
from my Democrat
He got
colleagues.
elected by
and
Paul
until
Birther,
then, the
yeah.
closest
And
they
was
ever
also
came to
somehow
Hamilton
Elijah
was
Cummings'
a $10
best friend.
bill.
Weird.
I mean, you know, all of a sudden, what we have is these strict constitutionalists on the other side of the aisle.
I'm going to,
Listen,
like
this has
Brandy
nothing to do with the
Grayson's,
Constitution.
tune in
It
tonight
has
to the
nothing to
Unheard
do
of
with
show
anything but
posting
raw
on social media.
politics. You know, there's
Right.
only one person on the other side of the aisle that got 7 Pinocchios for not telling the truth. No one on this side of the aisle got that during this impeachment process, Madam Speaker. And the American people need to understand 2 key facts. The Democrats in control set their own rules of evidence. They said what we need to do for impeachment is to have compelling evidence and bipartisan support. Well, they don't have either of those 2 things.
No, we have
They
compelling
failed
evidence.
The rules that they made up themselves.
No, they can't guarantee
We've got
that you
President
assholes are going to
Zelensky
be
of Ukraine
bipartisan,
saying
so you
there
can't
was
really
no
blame
pressure.
her. But 2 out of 3
We've got
ain't
the number
bad.
2 guy in Ukraine saying there was no pressure. We've got the number 3 guy in Ukraine, no pressure. These are the supposed victims of this alleged crime.
You know, the shopkeeper that was shooken down for some protection money, he says he
this
wasn't shaken down.
Evidence and facts.
See?
When the best witness
Nothing
they
happened.
have,
And he's protected
the
now.
very
Yeah,
best
see, and
witness
his
they
windows
had
won't
had
break.
to
I guarantee
change
it.
his testimony twice. They mentioned him 611 times, and ultimately, he said, "I presumed that that's what the president meant." You know, I can tell you that there are not facts here to support it, but what is more important than that, Madam Speaker, is this. Because here we are today, we have bipartisan opposition to impeachment, not bipartisan support.
Here we are, face
Here
to
we are.
face. A couple
My
of silver
colleagues
spoons.
opposite want the American people to think that this is a sad and somber day. Well, this is a sad day. It's a sad day for this institution because we've lowered the bar to impeach a president that continues to give us an economy that not only is growing, but growing at levels that we have never seen in the history
based on
of
what?
our country.
The GDP?
When we look at
I mean, that's not
unemployment
true at
at a
all.
level
That's total
that is
bullshit,
truly
Meadows.
remarkable, they want to impeach. But
They
it's
wanna
another
impeach him
sad
'cause
day
he's
because now what they're doing
trying
is
to
they're
get foreign
telling the
countries to
American people
interfere in our
that
elections.
233 Democrats deserve to decide who the president of the United States should be and disenfranchise 63 million
Well, they don't get
voters.
to decide.
When
I mean,
all
if
is
Trump's
said and done,
impeached, then
when
presumably
the
it's,
history of this
the vice
impeachment is
president.
written, it will
Or
be said
is
that
it?
my Washington Democrat friends couldn't bring themselves to work.
I don't know what we're yelling about!
Themselves instead by silencing the will of those who did the American people. And I yield back.
What?
Gentleman from California.
Madam Speaker, I'm proud to recognize the gentleman from California, Mr. Sherman, for 1 minute.
Gentleman's recognized for
1
1
minute.
minute.
There we go. Keep it tight.
Robert Mueller lays out facts from 2017 that constitute obstruction of justice, but says the president cannot be indicted. Only Congress can apply the law to those facts. Many of us have been talking about impeachment since those facts emerged in 2017.
Yes.
Of course, today we focus on more recent crimes. So why did
Bob's
we
got a
talk
good
of
media
impeachment
voice.
back when a Republican-led Congress
Brad Sherman,
would
a
not
Democrat
act?
from California.
Oh, my
Why
bad,
do we
Brad.
impeach today when a Republican-led Senate is unlikely to act?
I apparently
First,
don't
because
have a
it is
good
our
media
constitutional
brain.
duty, no matter what the political consequences.
He said
Second,
duty.
because it is the most effective tool to chasten and restrain a president who is not naturally feel constrained by the rule of law. I would note
Or
that the
anything
president's
else.
attempt to extort Ukraine was secretive and furtive, far different from his modus operandi of blazing threats that we saw in 2017. We can only imagine what high crimes and misdemeanors this president would have boldly committed had no one been talking about impeachment then.
Powers that you wouldn't believe.
From impeachment. Today we will demonstrate that the president is not above the law.
Gentleman from Georgia.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It would have been nice if they had actually thought those crimes were bad enough to put in the articles. They didn't. I yield 3 minutes to the gentleman
They
from Texas,
didn't.
Mr. Ratcliffe.
Gentleman's recognized for 3 minutes.
Madam Speaker, do you know who doesn't think the Democrats have
I hate
presented
this
enough
fucking
testimony
guy.
or evidence to impeach President Trump today?
This guy?
It's the Democrats. Sure, here in the House, Democrats running this inquiry
This guy
have
wanted to
declared
have the
they've done
CIA
everything
or
needed.
something,
They have
right?
all the
Didn't
testimony
they talk
and
about
evidence
positioning him
necessary
into
to
some
impeach
position
right now.
that he was completely
But right now,
unqualified
down the hall,
for?
Democrats in the
Hey,
Senate
he's in
are saying the
Congress. He's
exact
qualified for
opposite. They're
everything.
complaining.
It's like being on the
They
radio.
need
You
more
can do
evidence.
anything.
They
He
need more
likes Trump. He's
testimony
qualified.
because Senate
Rep. John
Democrats know that
Ratcliffe, a
House
Republican
Democrats
from
have built
Texas.
them a house of cards impeachment. An impeachment built by the same Democrats
John
who
Cox
told
told us
America, trust us. President Trump committed treason. He's a Russian agent.
Yep.
And we've got evidence, which of course proved to be totally false. And to quote the favorite catchphrase of one member of this House, they got caught. Along the way, those same Democrats said, trust us. The FISA law and court weren't abused by the Obama administration using Democratic opposition research dossier against the Trump campaign and President Trump. Again, totally false, and again, they got caught. And when
Just because he
Democrats
says it
started
doesn't
this
make it
impeachment
true.
Inquiry, they said, trust us. We have not yet spoken to the whistleblower. Again, totally false, and they got caught.
They got caught?
Sadly, my Democratic
Kind of like
colleagues
Ratcliffe
have
did,
placed
exaggerating
their own
his
credibility
resume when
in
he
the
had to
hands of members of
withdraw
this body that have no
from
credibility
his
left.
what
Members that
position
nobody
as
trusts
the next
because
director
they
of the
keep
National
getting
Intelligence?
Caught betraying
he got caught?
America. But unless
According to the headline at the Vox.com, John Radcliffe, Trump's pick for top intel post,
that Donald Trump is the third
withdraws
president to be
amid
impeached.
scrutiny over
History may
exaggerated
also
bio.
shortly reflect that he'll be the
They
first
hire
president
usually
to be
good people.
reelected after being wrongfully impeached. And if that happens, Democrats won't be able to hide behind a pretend veneer of caring about the Constitution. History will record the Democrats' legacy as a betrayal of the Constitution. Because
Dan
the
Coates,
founders
let's
meant
not
for
forget,
impeachment to
Dan
be
Coates,
used
that's the
for
guy that
actions
quit
so
after the
extraordinary, so
whistleblower
rare
report,
that it's
right? And he
happened
went
three
down to his
times in 2.5
subordinate's office
centuries. It
and
wasn't
interrupted a
meant for
meeting and said,
congratulatory phone
"You
calls
quit
where
too."
there's no
Yeah.
crime alleged, where
Yeah.
there's no victim.
Remember, that's
and
how
where
we
the
started this
Democrats
conversation.
themselves couldn't
George
even decide
Conway, of
what
all
to
people
accuse
on
the
Twitter,
president
pointed
of
us
doing wrong
towards like a
before
European
ending up with
story,
this
Guardian maybe, that talked about that particular incident. And John Radcliffe, this
guy
shithead,
talking right now, yeah?
Yeah, this guy was the guy that was put up to fill that position, and apparently there was some sort of mutual withdrawing when Radcliffe's exaggerated bio got found out by the media.
A mutual withdrawing, is that like mutual masturbation?
Something like that. Here's what Trump tweeted at the time. Our great Republican Congressman John Radcliffe is being treated very unfairly by the lamestream media. Rather than going through months of slander and libel, I explained to John how miserable it would be for him and his family to deal with these people. John has therefore decided to stay in Congress, where he has done an outstanding job representing the people of Texas and our country. So let's not forget, they got rid of Dan Coates, right? And I thought early on maybe he was the whistleblower. And Coates took his subordinate with, who also resigned promptly, and they wanted to stick a true partisan like John Radcliffe in over at National Intelligence, and I think probably, Dom, to cover tracks, don't you?
Sure, why not? Just another Republican ill-qualified for the job, playing the favorite role. I mean, this is par for the course. This is pretty much standard operating procedures in this administration. It is a shit show. That letter yesterday, I mean, if it continues to just show itself to you. What do they say? If someone offers to you who they are, accept it. Accept it.
Yeah, if they show you their true colors, believe them.
Right, believe it. Look at that. Read that letter. I mean, there's thousands, literally thousands of examples of the inadequacy of this administration, primarily Trump and those who immediately surround him. All you have to do is look. And I get the total partisanship. I get that, it's a Republican, it's your guy, but at some point, don't you look at a letter like that and say, "Oh my God, this guy is batshit crazy. I cannot continue to support him."
But I think they also wanted Radcliffe there for the cover-up, Dom. Let me read a little further from this Vox article. It's unclear, as of now, who Trump will nominate next for the nation's top intelligence post. What's known, though, is he won't follow protocol and elevate Sue Gordon, the deputy national intelligence chief, to be acting director when Coates leaves on August 15th. That means he may name someone else to leapfrog Gordon and temporarily oversee America's 16 intelligence agencies, hundreds of thousands of staff, and more than $53 billion budget.
I could do that job. I'll do it.
Well, apparently Radcliffe thought he should be doing that job.
All right, who we got? Democrat Bill Pascrell from New Jersey. Brian, let's pick this up a little bit, please.
The buck has stopped. Many have evoked the judgment of history as an anecdote to this threat. But the threat to democracy is here today, not tomorrow. We need not, we must not await the verdict of time for Donald Trump's abuse of power and obstruction. We can offer that verdict right now, and we are.
Guilty.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Georgia.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Jordan.
Gentleman's recognized for 3 minutes.
I thank the gentleman, Madam Speaker. The Democrats forgot two key things.
Hey, he's got his jacket on.
And they forgot about fairness. 4 facts will never change.
Oh, here we go.
We have the call transcript, no quid pro quo. We have the 2 guys on the call, excuse me, who've repeatedly said there was no pressure, there was no pushing. We have the fact Ukraine didn't know aid was held up at the time of the phone call.
That's
and most
false.
importantly, Ukraine took no action No announcement of investigation to get the aid released. But Democrats don't care. They don't care about the facts, and they sure don't care about the process.
That creepy
No subpoena
roll,
power
man.
for Republicans, no
Yeah, but
Republican
he's a pervert,
witnesses.
dude.
During the depositions, Republicans were prevented from getting all their questions answered, but Democrats got every one of their questions. The witness responded to every one of theirs, but not Republicans. The
Really,
chairman wouldn't let him.
Mulvaney?
And of course,
Bolton?
the whistleblower. The anonymous whistleblower with no firsthand knowledge, bias against the president, who worked for Joe Biden, was never compelled to testify. The guy who started it all. This is really about the president's been driving these guys crazy because he's getting things done. He's
Winning.
doing what he said he was going to
It's
do.
about
He's
winning.
having results. Taxes have been cut, regulations reduced, unemployment at its lowest level in 50 years, the economy growing. Gorsuch and Kavanaugh on the court, out of the Iran deal, embassy in Jerusalem, hostages home from North Korea,
He's
and a
basically
new NAFTA
reading Trump's
agreement coming
letter?
tomorrow. But
I
guess
wish you
what?
weren't a liar.
When you drain the swamp fights back. And they started attacking the president before the election even. July
The swamp
31st,
fights
2016, they opened the Russia
I'm a
investigation.
swamp
The FBI
rat.
spied on 4 American citizens associated with the Trump
He's
campaign.
a possum.
The FBI took the dossier to the FISA court, the dossier they already knew was false. They took it to
George
the court. They lied to the
Papadopoulos did a
court
little time
17
in
times.
Wisconsin, Jordan.
Guess what? 3 days ago.
Oxford.
3 days ago on national television, even Jim Comey had to admit the FBI was wrong. And yesterday, 1 day ago, the FISA court sends the FBI a
The
letter
FBI
and
may have
says,
been wrong about
straighten
the
up, get your
FISA, but
act
they were right
together
about
when it
opening up
comes
the
to
investigation with factual
FISA
predication.
application process. Think about this. Think about this. The attack started then and
Lordy,
it
I
continued
hope there are
right
tapes.
up till today. But I want you to think about something. The individual who said the FISA process was fine, the dossier was fine, the Russian investigation was fine, that same individual ran the impeachment process. That same
Prostitutes
individual
peeing on each other in
met with the
Moscow.
whistleblower. That same individual is the only guy in Congress who knows who the whistleblower is for sure. And that same individual released the phone records of the president's personal attorney, released the phone records of a member of the press, and released the phone records of a Republican member of the United States Congress.
Why is that Republican member of the
This
United States
process has
Congress
been
communicating
unfair,
with Lev Parnas?
It's been dangerous, and it has been harmful
You mean
to our country.
indicted felon
Democrats
Lev
have never
Parnas?
accepted the
Or
role
was
of
it
the
Igor
American people.
Fruman indicted?
Nancy Pelosi made that clear
alleged
4 weeks ago
indicted
when she called the
No, it was
President of
Lev
the United
Parnas.
States
Oh, it was
an
Lev?
imposter. The will of we the people, the 63 million folks who voted for this guy and made him president in an electoral college landslide. They've never accepted that fact.
That's not really
We are
what
less
it's
than
about.
11 months away from the election.
Yeah, we know that.
Let the American people decide
We
who should
will.
be president. Let the American people decide. I yield back.
Gentleman from California.
Madam Speaker, I'm proud to recognize the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Schneider, for 1 minute.
Gentleman's recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, I rise to defend the Constitution and support these articles of impeachment.
Woohoo!
The president abused the power of his office by corruptly putting his own political interests ahead of our nation's security. He blocked congressionally authorized military aid to coerce Ukraine to launch a phony investigation into
I'm
his
going to see if
political rival.
Brandy's in the lobby.
In the months since, he has waged a campaign of absolute obstruction against Congress's constitutional authority, ordering all federal officials to defy subpoenas and refusing to produce even a single document. Madam Speaker, I take no joy in today's impeachment vote.
I do.
Or that the president's actions
I do.
demand
I gotta
this
be honest.
response.
I find it joyful.
This is a sad moment for our
I'm
nation.
pretty joyful about
Only
it.
twice
I mean,
before has
I'm
the
down
House
with that.
voted to impeach a president.
Thankfully, they're
and never
impeaching.
before
There'll be
on
an asterisk
accusations
next
of
to his name
compromising our nation's
forever.
security. I hope the Senate prosecution. I hope in the Senate, prosecution and defense can call and cross-examine witnesses, and the senators will hear the evidence and make their decisions without prejudice or prejudgment. This is a solemn moment, but our system of checks and balances was designed for times like these, and I have faith that our Constitution will guide us on the path ahead. I yield back.
Yes, it's true.
Gentleman from Georgia.
This man has
Madam
no.
Speaker, I yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from California, Mr. Nunes.
Gentleman's recognized.
Nunez?
for
Gentlemen, Madam Speaker,
Danny,
Democrats now
Nunez.
Danny Noonan.
Their
Let's
attempt
hear
to
it.
remove the president began on Trump's inauguration day, when the Democrats' semi-official mouthpiece, the Washington
drugs, Danny?
Post, declared the campaign to impeach President Trump has begun. For years, the Democrats tried to expel the president with the preposterous accusation that he was a Russian agent.
Preposterous.
As detailed by IG Horowitz, dishonest intelligence officials used fake allegations spread by the Democrats to gain approval of a spying operation against the Trump campaign.
Sit down,
As they falsely accused the Trump campaign of colluding with Russians, the
Brian,
Democrats
he's frickin'
themselves
rock, dude.
colluded with Russians to manufacture
See the
these
guy handing
allegations
out
in the infamous Steele
ecstasy
dossier.
pills standing behind
They
me.
even tried to get
popping
nude pictures of
acid
Trump
back
from
there.
Russian pranksters. With the Russian
God.
collusion hoax, the Democrats had everything going for them.
The Russian
The
hoax?
Federal
delusion?
investigations run by Trump haters, an endless supply of media cheerleaders, and a galaxy of left-wing interest groups amplifying their ridiculous messages. And yet, even with all those weapons at their disposal, the Russia conspiracy theory collapsed.
Not really.
So they quickly concocted Plan B. The Ukraine hoax was
maybe
based on a supposed
Nunes should be
whistleblower
reading
who
now
played
the
beforehand with the
judge's
Democrats.
response to
The Democrats
Gates'
then prevented
conviction
Congress from
yesterday
interviewing the
sentencing.
whistleblower while
She kind
conducting
of highlighted a
bizarre,
lot of these
secret
issues that Gates
depositions
actually went and
selectively
was
leaking
cooperative while
testimony
some
to
other
discredited media
witnesses used encrypted data
The
and deleted
Democrats showcased
information.
the most useful witnesses in public hearings that somehow reduced support for impeachment. It's not easy to make
I'm not
the
certain
two
I
attempt
agree
boring,
with your
but
characterization.
the Democrats found a way. As it turns out, the American people don't think a routine phone call with a foreign leader is a good basis for ousting
Are we
the
going
U.S.
to get
president.
a vote on this impeachment?
The Democrats
by
also put forth
tonight?
ever-changing accusations
6
against
o'clock,
the president,
boys?
including campaign finance
Brian
violations,
says no.
quid pro quos, election
No,
interference,
they have to
bribery,
have a big, giant
extortion.
closing grandstanding.
Eventually,
It's
they
gonna
ended
be
up with the
Collins
ridiculous
versus,
charges we consider
Schiff,
today.
And they're going to grandstand.
Abuse of
They're
power,
gonna
an
have their
utterly
closing
meaningless
arguments.
term,
Their
and obstruction of
grandstand.
Congress. One Democrat has pronounced the president
Could
guilty
Dick Clark
simply because he won't
show up and it
cooperate
could
with
be
their plan to
American
railroad him.
Grandstand.
But the only thing
Grandstand.
President Trump is guilty of is beating Hillary Clinton. The Democrats refuse to accept that loss,
And maybe
now
his-
they're indicating
and
they'll
maybe his
continue
first wife.
their impeachment efforts even after this one fails
Allegedly?
in the U.S. Senate. Madam Speaker, after all their deceit, phony investigations,
If
ginned-up
we had had
crises, and
confidence
manufactured outrage,
that the president
Democrats
clearly did
need a
not
long
commit a crime, we
period
would have
of
said so.
rehabilitation.
Thank you for that.
They must learn how to do something productive for the American people
They are.
instead of ripping the country apart in their lust for power.
Lust. They have a
With
lust.
that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from
My
California.
right is outside. His name is Parnas.
Madam Speaker, I thank the gentleman for his remarks, and it's now my pleasure to recognize the gentleman from Massachusetts, Chairman Neal, for 3 minutes.
Gentleman's recognized for 3 minutes.
Come on,
Thank you,
hurry
Madam
up,
Speaker.
old man.
It is deeply
Just kidding.
unfortunate
Just
that we
kidding.
have to undertake this impeachment proceeding that unfolds this evening. But the part we play in this process is not optional. Among other things, as the Intelligence and Judiciary Committees have painstakingly documented, the President has indeed abused his authority, and he has indeed obstructed justice. He threatened to withhold congressionally appropriated U.S. taxpayer dollars from an ally under attack from Russia unless they agreed to interfere in our election
I
on
was just
his
concerned
behalf.
about general
He
corruption.
has expressed no remorse, and he continues to maintain that his behavior was, quote, perfect.
Zero. I
While
take zero blame.
simultaneously obstructing legitimate congressional oversight and subpoenas and blocking members of his administration from providing truthful testimony
I'm interested in
to
specific
investigators.
corruption.
His actions are so far beyond the pale that they have left us with no remaining recourse except impeachment, and so we shall impeach. Because as drastic and as unwelcome as this step is, our country faces even greater long-term risk if we fail to respond. We cannot excuse a president who feels entitled to disregard or break the law with impunity.
Right.
We are a nation built upon the rule of law, not the law of rulers. The framers gave us their best effort in 1787.
Ooh, I hope that happens
And indeed,
soon.
it was an extraordinary one. The Constitution they set down wasn't perfect, but it founded a
So is
republic that has
Brandy going
endured
live
and
at 6, or is
thrived
this thing still going,
with
Trudy?
exceptional stability. As the
Well,
late Senator
she's not
Moynihan
going
pointed
live
out,
before
only
the
2
vote.
countries in the world, both
So-
existed in 1800 and have never
Does she
had
know
their
that?
governments changed by violence
Well,
since
she will
then,
when she gets
the United
there.
States and Britain. Only 8 governments have existed since
I mean, I can't control the
1914 and have
timing.
not had their form of government
Westwood One is
changed by force
predicting
since
the
then.
7 o'clock,
The United States, the United Kingdom, Australia,
Eastern time
Canada, New Zealand,
wrap
South
up, but that
Africa,
prediction
Sweden,
was
and
made,
Switzerland.
you know, 100
Innovative
representatives
checks
ago.
and balances that they constructed with the separation of powers brought about and successfully negotiated a generation of challenges that we have sustained. In the very first week that the framers began crafting this blueprint for America's freedom and stability, and negotiations indeed immediately started on impeachment. No government in the world at that time exposed the head of government to impeachment, but America was to be different. In the view of the framers, impeachment is in no way a constitutional crisis. It is a process that the framers wisely judged that we would sometimes need. This evening is one of those rare moments. Madison worried that one day the country would elect a president who, quote, might pervert his administration to a scheme of peculation or oppression. He might betray his trust to foreign powers, end of quote. George Mason asked the delegates, quote, shall we see any man to be above justice? And above all, shall that man be above it, then who can commit the most extensive injustice? End of quote. Of course not, because having just thrown off one king, they would never consent to anoint another one. America firmly rejected the notion of divine right. Speaker Rayburn summed it up, but I have 30 extra seconds, Mr. 30 extra seconds.
Without objection.
Thank the gentleman.
Gentleman's recognized.
Article 1 of the Constitution prescribes Congress as the first
Yeah,
branch of
30
government.
extra seconds, Tom.
And just
No,
as
you
importantly,
cannot.
let me quote Speaker
You're done.
Rayburn,
You lost all the
who was asked,
momentum you
how
had.
many presidents
It's
did you
over.
serve under? And Speaker Rayburn answered, none. I served with 7 presidents of the United States.
Amen, brother.
Impeachment is reserved for moments of grave danger when the constitutional order becomes dangerously out of balance, moments like this one, and that's why I will vote to impeach.
Gentleman from Georgia.
Vote to impeach.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield a minute 45 to the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Ferguson. Minute
Gentleman's
45 seconds.
recognized for 1 minute 45 seconds.
Stop touching
Thank you,
me.
Madam Speaker. Well,
All
here
the
we
time.
are on the verge of doing exactly what America doesn't want us to do and what they feared that you would do. In 2016, I, along with 63 million American voters, representing 304 electoral college votes, went to the polls and we raised our collective
304.
political
Didn't
middle
Trump
finger
tweet out, or
to
his letter
DC
say 306?
and voted for Donald Trump. Folks like my father who watched this place destroy his profession of community banking. My friends and family in the textile industry
Turd
saw their
Ferguson.
life destroyed following NAFTA. Americans in rural areas whose opportunity in life and voice have been drowned out by the screams of socialist Democrats.
Turd Ferguson. It's a funny name.
Friends and neighbors living in poverty and crime, broken down, project-based public housing, who for generations have been told by this place, this is the best that we think that you can do. Here's your check. God bless you. Now move along.
Move along.
Those voters. And now you want to remove our voice from office. Well, our voice will be heard, and I stand here determined
Get over it.
to make sure that it will be.
Right,
Because
get
we
over
will
it.
fight back against this corrupt and unfair impeachment process. How dare you, the liberal elites, the condescending bureaucrats, and every other kind of
How
swamp
dare
bird
you,
in this
liberal
godforsaken
elite
place
Crudy.
tell the American
Drew
public
Ferguson.
who the president should be.
Republican
Come
from
on.
That's the job
Georgia.
of the American
Come
voter.
on,
So
Drew.
Brandy's here. I was just
This whole
explaining
flip
to
and
her
go
how it's
rodeo
going to be,
is a sham
waiting on the
and a shame.
impeachment vote.
All right,
will not
Keith's
be
ready
forgotten.
to turn on as
Speaker,
soon
I
as
yield
we're ready
back.
to roll.
Gentleman
So
yields back.
as soon as
Gentleman
they're
from
done
California.
talking, then I would say
Madam Speaker, I'm proud to
they'll have
recognize the
a
gentlewoman from
15-minute
Washington,
vote.
The gentleman from
So let's
Washington,
just go
Mr.
live
Heck, for 2
then.
minutes.
Gentleman
what I mean?
recognized
Yeah,
for
yeah.
2 minutes.
no reason to wait for the votes to be
This week,
tabulated.
Americans are
Although I
busy
did ask
finishing up
her,
their
let's
Christmas
make sure
shopping,
history
mostly for
plays
their
out.
children, or if
Let's
they're
make
lucky
sure
enough
when
to
they
have them, their
say
grandchildren.
the ayes have it,
School
Donald
college
J.
students
Trump
are
has
taking
been
final
The
exams.
articles
voted down on
passed.
2
The
articles of
results.
impeachment, bitches.
That
I want to hear that on the
about those
radio.
who follow and what our obligation is to them. And that got me thinking about those who came before
Heck, Denny Heck.
and how they might have seen their
Denny
obligation
Heck's
to us.
retiring.
People
Might be one
like
of
my
his last
grandfather,
official acts
whom our
as a
family
congressman.
believes literally was born on the boat on the way over here from Germany. Or my father, who fought in World War II against the very people that his grandfather
The
had
Nazis.
left.
The
We are
very
all
ones that
here
Trump
today,
supports.
all of us, because someone before us sacrificed so that they could journey here and build a new life in this unique land. And we are here today because those immigrants and their children were dedicated not just to the land of America, but to the idea, freedom and opportunity secured by self-government, choosing our own leaders in free and fair elections, and the rule of law under the Constitution.
Gentleman's time's expired.
2 minutes?
Madam Speaker, happy to yield another 30 seconds to the gentleman from Washington.
Gentleman's recognized.
This idea of America is in peril, brought about so by this president who sought to cheat in an
Absent
election.
yourself.
A president who puts himself above the law and attacks the bedrock constitutional precept of checks and balances. Yeah, the question is, can America survive this behavior?
Tony Evers tells
What idea
Trump
will we hand down to those who follow us?
Wisconsin welcomes refugees.
And finally, what is our obligation to those who would follow? It is simply this: to do our duty, to defend the Constitution and the values underpinning it by voting yes on the articles of impeachment. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Georgia.
I reserve, Madam Chair.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from California.
What's he
Madam
calling?
Speaker, I'm proud to
Squatters?
yield to the gentlelady from Florida, Ms. Demings, for 2 minutes.
Gentlelady is recognized for 2 minutes.
Madam Speaker, we live in the greatest democracy in the world. And I
Now,
am
do you save the
convinced
best for
that
last,
the
or
overwhelming
the ones
majority
you like
of
the least,
Americans
do they
are
go
good,
last?
decent people who
Oh, no,
work
she's
hard and
talented.
play by the rules.
Val Demings from a
Then we
Democrat
have
from
people
Florida.
who have
I
no
do like
respect
Val.
for the law, people who have little regard for the rules, people who spend a lot of their time trying to figure out how to game the system. Law enforcement officers call them habitual offenders. And the more they get away with,
Habitual
the more likely
offender.
they are to engage in misconduct. Some say it takes courage to hold powerful people accountable, but I see it differently. I see it as a sense of duty, a regular part of my job as a member of Congress. However, habitual offenders usually don't sneak up on you. They usually telegraph their intentions time and
She got a
time
big
again.
old sign.
On
No
July
one
27th
is
of
above the law.
2016 in my home state of Florida, then candidate Trump said, "Russia, if you're listening, I hope you will be able
Well, Dominic,
to
I
find
got
the
to
30,000
wrap up this
emails,
little enterprise. I got
thereby
to take my kid to a
inviting
Christmas
foreign
party after
interference
the
into
big
US
show.
elections."
Well, happy
I'll see
days,
you.
Crudy. All right.
What time do you think you'll hit the road in the morning?
I don't know, man. I'll shoot you a text. We'll make sure you get some lunch.
Well, you're bringing the gear, so let's plan on eating.
Well, that's right. We got a big event tomorrow. Make sure you join us at the Barrymore for the Democratic Debate Watch Party and, of course, a live broadcast from the very talented and humble Devil's Advocates radio show.
I'm not clear I know who those guys are you describe. We will see you all at the Barrymore Theater. Stick around, at least on the radio, for more impeachment coverage. And then the Unheard Of show with Brandy Grayson. It's going to be a big night. We're doing it live. She's doing it live. Stick around. They're impeaching Donald J. Trump live. But I got to go to a party, man. I'm celebrating the impeachment of Trump. See you at the party tomorrow night. Another party. Party over here, party over there.
I'm going to say one thing.